Well, hello and welcome to today's episode of the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Tuesday. Today is the farming or grow your food episode of the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Tuesday. So we have some good information for you, a wonderful show. So please stay tuned. Please share the show. Please invite anybody and everybody that you think may need to hear how we need to start thinking about growing our food. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the most merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I also further bear witness that Master Father Muhammad came in the person of God, rose one from amongst us, who produced that beautiful book that you see behind me, How to Eat to Live, which is the foundation of the Ultimate Wellness Group and what we talk about here on this show. And they did not leave us by ourselves during a time of grace, but left us with Minister Louis Farrakhan, who has guided us wonderfully, who is guiding us wonderfully. And that's why I start the show in that way, by giving homage to those whose shoulders I stand on. In their names, I greet you in the words of peace. We say it in Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum. And it just means that I pray that you have peace in your life. So welcome. Thank you for taking some of your Tuesday to come spend some time with us here at the Ultimate Wellness Group. And we're going to get directly into the show. Okay. Now, there's something I forgot to do last week that I want to include this week. So you all check this out real quick. If you haven't seen this is a young brother out of California. He's only 12 years old, but he invented this little handle that you see where you can open doors, and you go open your car doors. You can use it to touch ATM machines. There he is touching the car. You kind of really don't see the picture right there, but he's opening the car door. There he's opening the door of a place. I received my handles and I meant to bring them so that you all could see, but I left them at the house. So you can't see him, but I just wanted to give him a shout out. I got mine. I'm waiting on the black ones to come back in so I can get me some black ones, but I have some that are white. But regardless of the color, they still do a wonderful job in allowing you not to put your hands on a lot of surfaces that may be contaminated. And for any of you that think that this may be something that you're only going to use during this situation that we're going through now, this is going to be wonderful to use afterwards, because as I have said on some of my programs, social distancing was something that I was doing long before coronavirus became an issue. It was something that I practiced ever since learning about microbiology and not wanting to expose myself to certain things. So let's get a few shout outs. Shantae Manning, Assalamu alaikum. Shirley X, Cheryl West, James Bree, Kimberly Harris, Maxine Bland, Storu Toussaint, Fulton. Assalamu alaikum to you all. Thank you for coming in. Got some of the regular soldiers up in here. And one more shout out, and then we're going to get directly into the show, because today's show is about growing food realistically, right? All of us. Lawrence, thank you for coming in, bro. Assalamu alaikum. It's about us having ideas of how we're going to make it through this time frame, right? As I said earlier, or I shouldn't say as I said earlier, as I shared earlier, James Williams, walaikum salam, my brother. Pamela Bashir, walaikum salam, thank you. Oh, wow, yeah. Pamela Bashir said she got her Safe Pro handle as well. So I'm glad we're supporting this young brother and trying to make him a millionaire so he can keep doing wonderful things for us that benefit us. East Instructor and Kevin Woods, thank you for coming in. Walaikum salam to you both. So one other thing that I wanted to just announce today is that because of, wait, what happened? There we go. Give me just a second, y'all. I'm trying to pull something up. Because of the show, you know, a lot of times God works through us, right? And I just wanted to show you all a flyer, because since we've started the show, I hope you all can see that. I think you can. these sisters have decided that they're going to start a business making and selling bean soup. And so this is Aaliyah and Naja, and they are calling themselves the Ultimate Wellness Group presents the Navy Bean Soup Brigade. So if you have, an inability from a time perspective or whatever the case may be to make your own bean soup, it's not just for those in Houston because they do live in Houston, but they are going to ship anywhere in the United States. I have to get further information on whether or not they're going to ship all over the world. But I know for right now, they're going to do the United States. For some reason, I couldn't get the other flyer to download, which has the prices and their contact information, but I'll make sure that is put up after the show, or I'll try to get it before we end the show. Okay. So let's support these young sisters and help them. I'd like to see them become millionaires too, because as you all have heard me on many occasions say, I don't think that we should during these times, nor, when things so-called get better, we should have Navy beans in our repertoire of eating on a regular basis because they are that wonderful for our systems. Drew, Janine, wa alaikum salam. Leroya, wa alaikum salam. Thank you for coming in. Roderick Barnes said, I got my Safe Pro handles also. Great, man. I appreciate you all supporting. Wonderful. Jeffrey Andrews, thank you for coming in. Down for the Navy. Oh, great, man. Great. So I'll make sure you all have this information so that you could get what you need. Okay. So thank you all. And without any further delay, I'm going to go ahead and bring my guest in so we can get started with the conversation. And so I'm just going to do a little backdrop on this brother before I bring him in. And we got somebody else attempting to get into the show right now as well. But some people may know and some people may not know that this brother and many of us down in Houston, a few of us got together and purchased some farmland, and we were attempting to grow some food. We were successful to a degree and then not successful to a degree. But we started a milk farm, and we were selling milk for many, many years. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of preparation, a lot of planning. And so without any further from me, I'm going to bring on a brother who was a large part of that success and a large part of making things happen at that farm. And so, Brother Victor, go ahead and tell us a little something about yourself, man, and then let's get into this conversation. Michelle Rushing Ali, peace and blessings. Thank you for coming in.
Yes, sir. Am I coming through loud and clear?
Loud and clear, man. You look fresh too, man. Like you just came off of Ramadan or something. Oh, look what he got in. That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, I've had
handle, y'all.
Had mine for about 3 weeks now. I've been using it, brother.
Safe Pro handle. Let me put this back up while you shouting them out, brother. Hold on. There we go. Go ahead, shout them out.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, man. When I first saw this story, I said, "There's no way that I'm not gonna support the young man."
That's right.
Who was enterprising enough that during these times when people are stressing and going into panic mode, he went into straight creativity.
Come on now.
He tapped into creativity and he came up with something that was useful, practical, and easy for us to use. I mean, he made it easy. He sent it with these nice little keychains. I got another one here.
That's right.
I ordered like 4 of them, I think. 3 or 4.
That's the reason why I couldn't get any black ones. You bought them all.
Yeah, I'm telling you, brother, as soon as I saw it, I said, man, I'm going to support the brother because it doesn't take a lot for us to get behind one another and support one another. And if we all do a little bit, then, hey, like you said, this brother could be a millionaire and start contributing more and more, hiring us and training up our next generation of entrepreneurs to do great things. So, yes, sir, I had to get behind that and support that. I don't have a lot, but what I have, I try to make sure that I pay my black tax.
Yeah. And while we're on that subject, y'all, I think this is just a good segue to say that this is what we have to do in the days and the times that are coming. The reason why we are having this show today is it's a second part to the famine show. And if you all have been paying attention to the headlines, they're talking about this famine that's going to come. Mm-hmm. And, as we get further in the show, we're going to talk about some specifics, but this is a way we maintain the ability to make it through these things is by supporting each other, right? Somebody may have something that you don't have, and you have something that somebody else doesn't have. And as we come together, we support each other and make it through these times together. So, Brother Vic, tell us a little bit about how you got associated with the farm, and then you were our basically our farm manager for a while over the milk parlor. So tell us a little bit about how all that process came to fruition.
Well, actually, I don't believe in accidents and happenstance. I believe that everything has a divine purpose. I think we come in and out of each other's lives for a specific reason at a specific time and for a specific season. And my family and I, we relocated to Houston, Texas in 2008 from Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is also currently in the news again. But anyway,
right.
We came down here just looking for an opportunity to start, fresh and a change of scenery. And in the course of that, move during that transition, I was a plumber by trade, still am. But I had a brother approach me when he found out that I was a plumber. He said, "Man, can you read blueprints?" And I said, "Yeah, I can read blueprints." And he said, "Well, I got something I want to show you." So he showed me these blueprints and he said, "This is something we're going to build. Is that something you can do?" And I was like, "Yeah, this jokers ain't finna build that." I said, "All right." And I was like, "Yeah, I go along with it." I said, "Yeah, I can do that." Long story short, brothers took me down, and that was Brother Isaiah, by the way.
That's right.
The brothers
Shout out to Brother Isaiah.
Yes, sir. They took me down to Winnie, Texas, and showed me this spread of land and said, "This is where we're gonna build it at." And I mean, the rest is history, man. I mean, we put together almost 5,000 square foot property down there and built a milk parlor. And man, I mean, you're talking about cooperative work and cooperative economics at play. I mean, that's the short answer of how I got involved with the farm project here in Houston, Texas.
Yes, and that farm that you are referring to is 30 acres. And as I said before, we'd have to get either Brother Isaiah or Brother Danny to discuss the whole part of the purchasing, which was part of our program today. But one of the things that I wanted to mention to our guests is that, when we start talking about purchasing land, we also should consider the reality of the fact that some people already own land. And so that should be something that we are also doing as we're going through these times. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about some land that they planned on buying. But how is that person going to do anything on their land by themselves when we have some other people that have land by themselves? And the purpose of today's discussion is to talk about the reality of growing our own food, right? It's very difficult when you have a lot of land to do everything. And that's why Brother Victor's point just now was so profound, because it was group economics. It was based in the book written by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Message to the Black Man, that said 6 or 8 of you who think alike get together and pool your resources and do some things. That's how that came about. It wasn't magic. It wasn't some ethereal, fantastic thing that came because of a snap of a finger. It was brothers that came together. And when Brother Isaiah found out that Brother Victor was a plumber, well, why would we go try to find somebody else when we could put some money in this man's pocket so that he could take care of that aspect? And it was a group thing. We all went down there. Matter of fact, the day I met Brother Victor, I had probably messed around with some plumbing in my life, but I had never literally had a real plumber and a good, excellent, what do you call it? Not a journeyman, but what's the one that's licensed? Master plumber.
That is.
And this man taught me plumbing while we were there building this home. And so, and I've taken a lot of those skills and I've done some things in my own home since then when I needed some, plumbing work, of course, with him on the phone, keeping his guidance going. But the point that I'm saying, brothers and sisters, this is what today's show is about. It's about some realistic examples and some realistic brothers that didn't grow up farming, didn't grow up on a farm, don't have a farm, but we came together and learned. And one of the things that I think is great about this brother here, Victor, is he is very astute at researching. He will go out and find some things and compare and start working and figuring out things. And he's very great at that. I saw a great aspect of him of, if I don't know something, there are avenues where I can go find this information. Talk a little bit about that, my brother.
Well, we used to joke and kid one another all the time when we were out there, man, trying to figure things out. We called ourselves and we referred to ourselves as YouTube farmers, because I mean, most of us, if not, I think pretty much, really all of us, we were city bred and raised. You know what I mean? We were born in cities in different parts of the country, and raised in cities. And so the closest thing we came to farming was our local produce section. And so not knowing anything about farming or animal husbandry, man, Google was like, it was like our Bible when it came to, trying to figure things out. And then what we did was we also started looking for other organic farmers or natural, people that were trying to do things as chemical free as possible.
That's right.
And we would reach out to them just cold calling, like, hey, man, look, I see you online. I see what you're doing. Would you be willing to show that to me? Would you be willing to teach that to a few of us if we came down there? And we would literally, some mornings, there have been times when we would get up at 3, 4 in the morning for a road trip where we would go to other black farmers. In some cases, there was even a couple of white farmers whose brains we would pick, and we'd say, listen, man, we just want to learn this. How do we do it? And so we would take that and we would keep it going as long as we could. And then we would take it back to our property and try to implement what we had learned, all the while discussing what we had learned with each other. And so I think a lot of our progress and a lot of our success came from the fact that we were not too arrogant or too uppity to admit what we didn't know first. We were willing to acknowledge what we didn't know. And then we just started asking questions, and we were humble enough to maintain the posture of students throughout the entire process.
That's right. And the fact that you mentioned that, I mean, right off the top, we got a plumber, a doctor, what was Jeff at that time? A colonel in the armed services.
Yeah, he wasn't a colonel then, but he's been since he's full burn now. But
yeah, so we're talking about a police officer, an engineer, an educator. These are the brothers that came together. A electrician in Brother Sylvester came together, and we just started working. And I remember one day we were out there. We bought this new tractor. And everybody kind of looking at each other like, well, who go get on this joint? And I was like, hell, I drove a tractor many, many years ago. I ain't been on one in a long time, but I jumped on that thing. We started making it happen. And that's the way we had a very tight brotherhood.
Right.
But it grew through this work because it wasn't always easy. Sometimes we'd be in a room discussing things and we'd get into arguments and we get fiery and hot in there, but we would always shake hands, give each other the greetings. When we left out of that room, there was no love lost. We might have had some disagreements on specifically how to do this or how to do that, how to implement this reality, but the brotherhood grew through those difficult factors, and it made us so tight. And the successes that we had was because of, first of all, the greatness of Allah. But then secondly, it was because we, as you said, we were willing to be humble enough to say, hey, this is not what I do for a living. And so let's all read this information. Let's all go listen to this video. And then let's come back and use these minds that God has given us. And let's find which person may have the best idea or what idea is the best to implement based on the finances that we have and based on the time that we have. And we had a very good crop. We planted some food on a quarter of the acre, and we got 30 acres. So the cows are walking on one area, and we got the milk parlor, and there's another section that we decided to grow some food. And we found out the hard way how difficult it is to keep weeds out your garden. So kind of talk about some of those challenges that we had with the getting the milk parlor up, getting everything started, and that food that we grew, bro. Because I know, I don't know if I mentioned, but you were the milk parlor manager for, I don't remember how long, but I know you did that and did a wonderful job with that for a minute. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, ultimately our primary purpose in the whole project was to have a raw milk dairy. And so, to that end, we had, who among us at that time was, we could only refer to and defer to him as the God amongst us when it came to animal husbandry. We had Brother Kelvin Muhammad, who he had a knack with those cows. He was good with the cows. He knew how to care for them and milk and prepare the milk for sale. And I mean, he was the go-to person with respect to handling and the animal husbandry of our Jersey cows.
That's right.
So, we had to defer to him in a lot of respects with respect to how we were going to build this structure that was going to be our milking parlor. And when, it was funny how you talked about how sometimes we're in the room and we got to, it got a little heated. I mean, when I tell you it got heated. I remember an incident when my son was on the property with us. He was a teenager, and we kind of walked midway back, to have a discussion amongst the adults. And it was a few children there at the property, and they kind of heard I didn't know the sound carried over 30 acres like that, but they heard how heated it got. And later that afternoon, my son was telling me, he said, "Man, I thought y'all was about to fight." I said, "No, sir, brother." I said, "Man, it was all love." When we came back up, you saw we was laughing and talking.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how, grown men are able to have disagreements that may even become heated that don't necessarily turn violent. That's right. What children do. They lash out violently. And so, to answer your question, when we were designing the milk parlor, we were trying to figure out the most efficient way to get the cows in and out and milked and fed and all of that while they were in there. And then to bottle the milk. We wanted all these moving parts going on at once. We wanted to be able to strain the milk and bottle it and chill it as fast as possible in order to maintain the antibodies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, Brother Kelvin had some ideas. I was a researcher. I did a lot of reading, and I was looking at models of milk parlors online and trying to figure this thing out and trying to line up what I was reading with what he was asking for. And the initial structure itself, it was a good compromise. However, we forgot some things as we were trying to get it up, because again, it was about available resources and then time. So we when we laid out what we wanted did, and we hired the people that we wanted to build it, and they got it built, we realized after the very first one or two milkings, rather, that we forgot a critical element. We didn't run any drainage to this building. There were no drains anywhere. So anytime we wanted to spray it down, we literally had to sweep the water out of the park. Right. That was a poor design. So again, I had my son and one of his friends come down there with me, and we literally was jackhammering up concrete floors to try to get some type of drainage into this building. But again, we were internet farmers. We were doing the best we could with what we knew. And, all in all, it all worked out well, I thought. I mean, we made some mistakes, but it worked out well.
That's right. Yeah. And we, and a lot of times while you all were working on the milk parlor, because it wasn't, enough room for all, sometimes 6, 7, or 8 of us together that were down there. And I forgot to mention Brother Jeffrey. Brother Jeffrey came down there and helped us out a lot as well. Yes, there wasn't enough room, but sometimes there'd be some of us working on the house, and some of us would be out tilling the ground and getting ready to plant something, and you all were in the milk parlor. That's kind of how we work together. But if there was ever some type of a project where all hands needed to be on deck, that's what we did. We put all hands on deck, like a couple of those times when we were out there fixing those fences, trying to keep our cows from getting out and other people's cows from getting in our yard, so that you wouldn't have that cross breeding, and then you start interfering with not only the potential harm of your cows when they're delivering, but also a mother delivering a baby that wouldn't be the same as what we were trying to do, is get the cows that produce a lot of milk. So I'm just getting to some of these specifics, you all, because these are the things that we learned. They also are experiences, but we wanted to have this show today because we really want to have a discussion on how we are going to be all right going in the future. That's right. When we listen to these scriptures and we listen to these stories on social media, as well as the overall media, talk about this famine that's coming, most of the people that are going to be in this famine and affected with it a lot are going to be the people that are relying on somebody else to feed them. Mm-hmm. And so that is why we're having this show. And I wanted to make sure that everybody sees that this show is based on the lecture that the minister did, Minister Louis Farrakhan, on the time and what must be done. You all got to go check these out. Okay. This is part number 36, where he talks farming is the engine of our national life.
Mm-hmm.
This is information that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, of course, told us. The minister eloquently put it together in this 1 hour lecture. But, you know, the book that's behind me, How to Eat to Live, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad tells us over and over and over and over again that we have to have our own land. We have to produce our own food. If we continue to put our mouths in somebody else's kitchen, meaning that we're bringing food into our house that we didn't prepare, we don't know what it is, we can't even pronounce some of the words that are in the ingredients of some of these foods, then that's why we're winding up with so much disease. And it is very important, I think, for everybody to take some time, not only listen to this lecture, but also do your own research on what was the lifespan of a slave. And what kind of diseases were we dying of as slaves? Just to give you a little portion, the average age of a slave was 27 years old in the majority of the years while we were in slavery. But immediately on our exodus away from these plantations, when we had all of these 60, some estimates say 60, some say 90, 60 to 90 all black towns in the South and all over this country, black people's average age shot up because we were growing our own food, and we were doing it because we were the ones doing it on a plantation. Right. But we were doing it in a way that was taking care of our health and growing us. And so we have to understand that if they can do it then, we can do it now. And that's what the purpose of today's show is to give us the example of how we can do that today. It's not something that's that is without our reach. Brother Victor, go ahead and say a little something about that, my brother.
Well, I was thinking as you were speaking, brother, that one of the things that I think would help us, and I know it helped me tremendously, is to understand that the mindset we have of this instant gratification is really kind of what hinders us from taking that first step towards self-sufficiency, because we think we have this mindset that everything is supposed to happen right now. You know what I mean?
Yes,
and
sir.
So because everything doesn't happen right now, I know one of the things I had to learn when I first started trying to grow my own food is that, you know, when you walk into the grocery store, you can just pick it up right there and then eat it as soon as you get it. You're not able to do that when you're growing it yourself. It takes time. Food doesn't grow instantly. And so, like, even this year, even though I've been doing this and kind of growing different vegetables here and there for the last few years, I still find myself getting impatient sometimes when some plants seem to grow faster than others. And I'm constantly trying to figure out, well, what do I need to do? What do I need to do to make this grow and make this grow? And a lot of it is just patience.
That's right.
You have to understand that there is a process that the seed and then the plant have to go through in order for them to develop and produce produce. It's not an instant thing. And so if we get to that point, if we can get to that understanding that it takes patience, and then also come to terms with the fact that, look, everybody's not necessarily in a position to buy acres and acres and acres. Right. However, if you have so much as a patio outside of your apartment balcony that has sunlight, you can grow something to eat.
That's right.
Just that simple. You can grow. And even if it's only one plant, guess what? That's one less vegetable that you have to purchase from the grocery store.
Yes.
So if all you learn how to grow is cherry tomatoes on your balcony, grow the heaven out of some cherry tomatoes.
Yeah, cherry tomato eating.
Listen, eat what you need. Find somebody that's growing cucumbers and trade with them.
That's right.
So it's a process that we go through. So I'm so grateful to you, Brother Keely, to having programs like this. And I mean, there's a lot of people. I remember there's a sister when we first started that farm project. Well, not first started, but once we were up and running, you know, we had started that Blog Talk radio show for a little while.
Right.
There was a sister, I cannot remember what city she was from, but she was one of the first that we had on the program. Her name was Sister Jeanette Muhammad. And just seeing the images of her gardening in her backyard was such an inspiration to me. That sister was and is amazing. I saw something I saw something by her not too long ago, a post. I mean, just amazing. The things that her and her husband were doing in just their backyard, could feed, potentially an entire neighborhood.
That's right.
The amount of produce they were making. So you don't need a lot of space to get started is ultimately what I'm saying.
That's right. And that's the great point, bro. If we understand the scripture, come out of her, my people, so you may not partake of her plagues and her famine. That's the discussion today. And we have Brother Danny is about to come in. He is one of the owners of this land, so we're going to have him come in and explain how they went through the process of purchasing it. I just want to lay this out before we get there. Is that right here in Houston, we have this acres that we're talking about here in Winnie, and we have another brother that has some in Sweeney. Both of these areas are about approximately an hour outside of the city. And what the three of us that are on here today with some other brothers have decided to do was put together a little teamwork, and we're going to work with each other's farms. Brother Victor is doing some things at his house. We're going to look at that in a few minutes. But why would Brother Akili go buy 20 acres of land? And I would if that's what we needed, if it was a good opportunity. But the reality is, why not help those who have some right now? And let's do some things with that as we build that, right? We're not going to be able to go from, like the minister says in this lecture, at one time, Black people in this country, we had 33 million acres of land. And I think it was the late 80s, early 2000s, it had come all the way down to 4 million. We can't feed large populations of people with that small of land. But what we can do is start learning the process on small properties like we have, and eventually we'll grow to a place where we'll be able to feed all of our people. And I hope that makes sense. And I hope it makes sense why we're having a show tonight, because that's what we have to do, is exactly what the statement was, right? Growing food realistically. And so that's what we're talking about. A couple of shout outs, and we're going to bring Brother Danny in. Christine Crowder, Alita Champagne. I think I got everybody else. Tamara Muhammad, thank you for coming in. Thank you all for coming in. Assalamu alaikum. So let's go ahead and bring in my brother Danny. Thank you for finally getting in, my brother. And tell us a little bit about yourself, my brother, and then tell us a little bit about his process and how you all found this land and purchased this land. Yes.
Well, you can tell that. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
But Victor pretty much laid it out. You can tell he likes to talk. We I got into different ventures and was running away from. I was like Jonah. I was running away, and I ended up right back here. Because we had a desire for the product. Dr. Abdul Halim came to the city, and as I heard Brother Victor mention, Brother Kelvin, who did an excellent job out here of getting us started and teaching us about husbandry, some things about husbandry, specifically with the Jersey cow. And Dr. Halim, Alim came here, and he just desired some milk, and Brother Kelvin found somebody right there in the city, and he found it. And one day, myself and Brother Isaiah pretty much was the brainchild of this thing or what have you. But we were working at another one of our brothers, Jim Master William, and he was telling us about his desires to have to buy the cows because the guy Tom was going out of business. And right at that moment, we said, let's buy the cow. So we purchased the cow. We ain't had nowhere to put it though. We didn't know. We didn't have nowhere to put it. And that's go. I just go to show you, how you think. Oh, we just buy a cow, but we had nowhere to put it. And it just so happened that there was a brother and his wife, Brother Dean, who lived out in Alvin and was so gracious and allowed us to store the cow there. And it was so rough that Kelvin would be milking on a slab, on a patio slab. We didn't know nothing about a milking pole or none of that stuff. We just say, let's get busy. And we continued to go from there. And we didn't. And then after a while, we figured out that hey, well, how are we gonna keep the milk flowing? Well, we didn't know that we had to get a bull so that the cow can be mated. So one evening, we was late at night, me and Brother Isaiah said, hey, man, we finally got somebody we found on Craigslist, we found a lady in, I forgot what part of Texas it was, but I didn't even know how to really drive a trailer with, we rented a trailer. And I didn't even really know how to haul. I had a dually truck. And I didn't even know how to pull a trailer. So we went down to the lady's house and loaded up this mean bull and brought it out there, and they began to mate and kept the milk flowing, and then we continued to add on, and then we were able to build up enough and continue to put our monies together. I know that Isaiah and myself, we didn't really have an interest in actually getting out there doing the work, but we had somebody that had the will to do it. And we say, hey, man, we're going to support you. And if that's what you desire us of doing, we're going to support you. Let's do it. All we want is the product. Because we've heard of the Messenger and How to Eat to Live, those wonderful books Brother Keeley have behind him, how the Messenger talked about milk. And we just thought that milk was just go in the store and get it. We didn't understand the concept of raw milk. Well, we all were YouTube farmers. So Kelvin did some research on it and came up with the about what we needed to do. And Brother Aleem, has he continued to talk about what raw milk was really what I would read How to Eat to Live for years, but never knew what they meant by raw milk, real milk. So we began the process, and we continued to save, and myself and Brother Isaiah, because we were really into it, and we put money in, and then Dr. Keeley put some money in, and Jeff put some money in, the Colonel, and we got busy, when everybody began to pitch in, and it was one of those things that we just got busy, and life started taking on itself, and everybody just started pitching in and taking ownership of it. So it wasn't so much, Brother Keeley said that that I'm a part owner of it, but we didn't look at it like I'm own and you don't, we looked at it as us, and we began to, and just by us being involved in the community, there was an electrical class that came up out of this thing that we would design. We was hitting the streets real hard. It was initially was myself and Isaiah and Brother Durst. We hit the streets real hard, and it was like, man, we gotta. Every time we come across, we find brothers that were unemployed. They were trying to find a way to work, and Isaiah got in contact with this brother, or met this brother, and things started taking place. And we came up with this electrician class, and at a church, and with this brother that went to this church, and we started having the classes in Brother Sylvester's apartment clubhouse. Yeah. And the manager was nice, a lady who, if it wasn't for Brother Keeley, he healed her, he saved her, because she was he saved her, with his medical expertise. He really saved her. So she was kind of indebted to us. So she allowed us to do the class there, and from there, we got the people together, and we some brothers earned their apprenticeship license for electrical, doing electricity and whatnot, and they came out and we wired the house. So it was a collective thing where everybody came together to make this thing happen. So and here we are.
That's right. So let's move on to the next aspect of what we're talking about. Let's talk a little bit about growing food. I see Zena Hayes came on here. She says, thanks to Dr. Keeley, I'm growing kale and collards, cucumbers, green peppers. She said next. I'm not sure what's next, but I hope she didn't get kale and collards from me. But we appreciate you, sister. Getting out there and getting that food is really, really the important thing, is that we learn how to grow, because we can always getting to the right foods. Perdesta Moon, I thank you for coming in. I think everybody should, if you get a chance, follow Perdesta Moon, because she's always showing the things she's growing at her house. And when she harvests her food, she brings it in and shows what she harvested from her garden, and she shows how to prepare it in the right way. So that's what we're talking about. That's the purpose of the show, to kind of give you some background some of the things that we've done over the years, but it's this interchange of a lot of you all that are growing your food. I know there was somebody that came on a few weeks ago, a friend of mine. He was talking about he planted his garden. That's what we're talking about, my brother Bill. So this is what today is about giving you all just a little information about how we do things. And so that's why I always suggest everybody that's listening and anybody that you have influence over, make sure people don't throw away anything that they consider scraps out of their kitchen. If you're cutting stuff off the onion, if you're taking the parts of the bell pepper that you don't eat, if you're peeling your carrots that you use or anything like that, you always take these foods and you start collecting those. You start, making a compost section. Even if you're in an apartment complex, you can do these type of things. And like I said, reach out to people and get to know people and find people in your area. You may, just by doing a compost in your apartment or in your home where you don't necessarily have a lot of room, you take that to the place where you all growing food. And that is the fertilizer, right? Because as we went in this, you heard Brother Victor say that we wanted to do it as clean as we wanted to do. In How to Eat to Live, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad talks about commercializing people. And he talked about the DDT, and he talked about how we're using fluoride and chlorine and all these things that are affecting people and damaging their health. So that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to do it in the best way. We wanted to do it in a healthy way. We wanted to make sure that nobody was going to wind up with any long-term problems based on what they were getting from us. And so as we learn, as we grow, as we grow into the ability to be able to have 30 acres of a farmland versus just a quarter, it takes growth. It takes understanding. It takes a lot of things. So go ahead and talk a little bit about that, my brothers, about some of the things that we experienced and did early on the farm. And then we're going to take that from the farm and talk about what we can do in our individual houses, like some of the things you're doing, Brother Vic.
Yes, sir. I think one of the things I know I learned from you, I remember at many of our regular meetings, I think we met more often, it felt like sometimes, than we worked, because we come from that school of thought that in the beginning was the word. So we had a lot of meetings, but the meetings were not unproductive, and we weren't just meeting to pat one another on the back for a job well done. They were strategizing meetings and delegating meetings, and we held one another accountable. But I remember early on, one of the things I learned from you, Brother Keeley, with respect to growing food, was the necessity or the purpose or the practical reasoning behind buying non-GMO heirloom seeds. I had no idea what an heirloom seed was. I thought you just go to the store and you buy some seeds, you throw them in the ground, and everything was good.
That's right.
Until I got to wrangling verbally back and forth with you about what's good and what's not, and realizing that this guy might know a little something. He might know a little something,
just a little bit,
But I remember when you and a couple of the brothers had ordered those heirloom seeds.
Yeah.
And that just stuck with me. And then I remember, me and you sometimes talking about, well, where can we get them locally, this, that, and the other thing. We started talking about some of the local stores that were producing heirloom seeds. And then you started talking about how, the necessity or the importance of eating foods that have seeds in them. I was a big fan of the seedless watermelon. Until you made it clear to me that, hey, man, where it come from if it ain't got no seeds in it? I was like, man, so,
Wonder why you having all that diarrhea, huh?
And then my wife and I started saving seeds and all this type of stuff. So I understood, just that part became critical to us, I think, when we talked about, what we were going to try to do out there. But we did learn, unfortunately, that if you're going to be doing stuff pesticides free and herbicide free, then you better be on deck really 7 days a week, because the weeds are coming, and when they come, they're not for no games.
That's right.
So we learned that real quick. We planted, a piece of an acre, and it was all I can say is a learning experience, because it definitely wasn't an eating experience. We didn't eat anything out of there, but we
radishes, man. Come on now, give us a little bit of credit, man.
The radishes was already there, Brother Keeley. But no, man, I think I value the experience because now, like you were saying, translating it back to my personal home, it gives me more practical application on what to do on a smaller scale.
That's right.
I don't want to jump ahead of the program, but when we do get to that, as far as starting seeds, transplanting seeds, this and the other thing, it's still a learning process. I still ask Brother Keeley questions because I know he's always growing something. I asked Brother Isaiah some things here and there because through this experience of developing this farm, we also researched and did a lot of application on aquaponics, growing food through the use of fish and their wastewater, if you will. And so Brother Isaiah, I know, is still doing that. But to show you how the networking went, through our being in the streets, we first got up on aquaponics by dealing with our dear brother Pastor Smalls down at the King Center in Third Ward.
That's right.
He had a program where he was doing aquaponics in his on his property, trying to address the food desert situation that are in our inner cities. And so through him, this woman by the name of Dr. Bonnie Hanson, who traveled on her own dime all the way down here to Houston from, I can't even remember what city she was from, but I know it was like 5 hours away. It was up near a little bit past Dallas, if I'm not mistaken. But she came all the way down to these little, 6 or 7 brothers down here in Houston trying to do their thing, and gave us a hands-on, explanation and demonstration of what aquaponics is and what we needed to do to get it started. And then she came to our property and showed us some things down there on, what would be a good place to set it up. And then she invited us to her property. So that's how this networking works. When you find people that have a similar interest in what you're doing and what you're trying to do, people are more than willing to share information. You just got to ask the right questions.
That's right. Brother Danny, come on in, bro.
Yes. The actual getting involved in growing, it can be overwhelming sometimes when you're trying to do multiple things. When you're trying to do husbandry and gardening, and sometimes I would forget about how difficult it is. And the brother that was Brother Kelvin, who was down here working hard doing the husbandry, and I was wondering, well, why are you not growing anything out there? Just husbandry in itself is just difficult. And if you focus on that area, if that's what you're going to do, and part 36, I think Brother Keeley mentioned it. I would advise the listeners to listen to part 36 and part 49 of the time and what must be done. Because, trying to do too much, you won't do nothing.
Right.
So he was focusing on husbandry, and I didn't understand it, and he did an excellent job.
Right.
I learned a lot from him. And so right now, I'm in the process of trying to get the program back up, and it's been very difficult. So I am planning. I got, in fact, we got some squash that's coming up and some good stuff that's coming up. And, but because you can have cattle, but dairy cattle is somewhat different. You have to really put some time and some energy into them,
right.
And so if you focus on the area that you could be most successful. I heard someone, I can't remember who mentioned it, about if you focus on one area, and that's where business takes place. Because if I may not be the best cucumber grower, and Dr. Keeley may be the best tomato, and Brother Victor may be the best onion grower, and because you may not produce the best product, somebody else does, and in exchange, you're doing that's where business start taking place, where you're exchanging with one another. Mm-hmm. And I spoke with a brother Nadir just recently. It's on that line. I spoke with a brother Nadir. His mother was born during the Great Depression, because we were concerned about what's going on. And right. And we, he was sharing with me, he's been helping me, and he said, man, because it was like a little project that we had. Now the game is real now, with the impending this corona, the economy shutting down. It's real now. This game time. It's not stretching and warm up before the game. It's game time now. So everything is serious. And because it has gotten so
That's
serious.
right.
You know, I'm looking at the weather now. You get more in tune with nature. And back to the story, he started talking about his mother said that they didn't have any. He asked her what they do for money. She said, baby, there was no money circulating. So the people had no money. But what they did was, as I was saying, that somebody had some good tomatoes, somebody had some good corn, and then they just swapped. And they just exchanged with one another. And that's how they survived. They just exchanged with one another, and that's how they conducted business. And just to being forced, had it not been for How to Eat to Live, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and my leader, Minister Louis Farrakhan, for sharing with us in that series, The Time It Must Be Done, it came more clear to me that I had to turn it up and be a little bit more aggressive about it. And you have to be very patient. It teaches you patience. It teaches you, I'm worrying about the weather. Man, is it gonna rain? I'm praying for weather. I literally get out there and I'm praying for the rain.
Come on, now.
You know, as of right now. So it brings you in tune with nature. It really brings you in tune with nature. And we have some cattle, but they're not Jersey cattle right now. I'm working back toward it, however, because it's very difficult doing husbandry with dairy cattle. Right. So you don't have to put your hands on them as when you're not doing the husbandry with Jersey with dairy cattle. So I'm able, hands are a little bit more freer and you can do it. But as you keep going and you find yourself getting into the business of agriculture and the whole environment, and you start coming across people in these different networks and circles of people, and you find yourself in these different kind of meetings, you find yourself at agriculture meetings, and I never desired this, so I kind of got thrust into it, and sometimes you need a foot in your backside, and that's what I got.
So, Brother Vic, I know you were the milk parlor manager for a while. I don't remember, like I said earlier, I don't remember how long. Well, you can tell us that. But what were some of the challenges of getting the milk out and making sure that the milk, like as you said, was cooled on time, and getting them into the bottles and separating, the half a gallon from the gallon, and what was going to be made into cheese and what was going to be made into yogurt, and all the different things as far as getting the supplies and all that you were doing such a wonderful job of helping us manage for a while. Talk a little bit about that difficulty factor and what kind of advice would you give? Like, Brother Danny talking about us going back into it. What kind of things can we do to make it more efficient and make maybe somebody else's process a little easier than the struggles that we had to go through?
Well, I think first, all credit and all praise is due to Allah. I jumped in literally with both feet, not having any experience working with anything larger than a Doberman Pinscher. You know what I mean? I had no experience with cows. Limited experience on business in general, but specifically on agribusiness. I think one of the biggest takeaways I had from that experience, and it was approximately 3 years, I think, that I acted as farm manager, was that there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There are some practices that carry over regardless to whom or what, because we see that the predominant people that are participating in the agribusiness right now, we're the minority as far as farmers of color. The black farmers are, we ran away from the land. We ran away from all things dealing with the land. And so we're the minority. However, those practices that are being engaged in by the majority, they really were just taken off from what we taught them at the beginning. And so a lot of those practices are still what they consider to be best practices as far as how to basically treat an animal. However, once you get to the point where you're going from animal husbandry to just straight up commercialization of the milk process, that's when those practices become things that we want to shy away from. So we knew going into it that we wanted raw milk. We wanted cows that were pastured. We didn't want any cows that were confined. And so that's moving back into it. We know that that's the same thing we're going to do. We did not want to use food supplements that had antibiotics in it or anything of that nature. And people may ask, well, why food supplements? For the most part, when cows are being milked, you got to distract them. And so that's when I say food supplements. We would buy feed for the cows to eat while they were being milked. That assisted us in keeping the cows still during the milking process, because they have a tendency to move, and they, regardless of how much they are used to you, cows don't like being touched. And so this went a long way towards keeping the cows calm and docile while they were being milked. You got to keep in mind, these animals weigh a couple tons each, and if they decide that they want to move, there's really not a whole lot you can do, as we learned when me and Brother Danny tried to milk them. There's not a whole lot you can do to stop a cow from moving when the cow decides, look, I'm ready to move. And so you have to have feed. That's one of your expenses. So, you know, from obtaining the milk, you're keeping your cows healthy on a pasture that's not being sprayed with pesticides or herbicides. And then you're also giving them a feed supplement to keep them calm and steady while you're milking. But then once they're milked, you got to be able to chill this milk to a temperature that will basically stop bacteria from growing.
Right. There's
some harmful bacteria in milk, but the positive or the healthy bacteria that are in the milk far outweigh the so-called bad bacteria. And so what you want to do is you want to freeze the bacterial process as fast as possible. When I say freeze it, I mean arrest it, stop it. You don't want the bacteria that's present to necessarily die, because there's more healthy than non-healthy bacteria. You just want to stop it from multiplying, because as the milk gets warm and then is exposed to the air, the non-healthy bacteria tends to grab hold of that reproduction. It reproduces faster in warmer milk. And so you want to cool the milk or chill the milk as fast as possible. And so what we found several different ways to do it. The most cost-effective for us was to keep it in small batches and get it into a freezer or cooler that it was set at just above freezing temperatures as fast as possible. And so I'm amazed, quite honestly, to this day, that Brother Kelvin was able to do this in many instances by himself,
right,
daily basis, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You have to keep in mind that dairy cows have to be milked religiously every day, at least once, but it's better to milk them twice. And so this is a process that really requires some good man. You know, I mean, it's a lot of attention. You got to put some man hours in on these dairy cows. And so some of the things that we learned is that if you're going to, in order to keep your costs down, you have to have good relationships with your suppliers. But also, you need to have a good customer base, because the milk does not last forever. Now, we're taught that the milk doesn't necessarily spoil, it more so transforms. However, people want to drink milk, they don't necessarily want to eat it. And so you got to have a customer base as well as a good supplier relationship, so that from the time you start purchasing bottles and feed and all of this stuff that you need to milk these cows, you already have customers lined up so that you can get this milk into their hands. Our biggest challenge in the state of Texas, I don't know how it is elsewhere, but in the state of Texas, is that raw milk is illegal as far as selling it in stores or delivering it to people. However, if you have a raw milk license, people can come to your farm and purchase the raw milk directly from your farm, as long as your farm is licensed. One of our biggest challenges were, because we're so far away from everybody, was finding enough customers that were willing to travel to our farm to purchase the milk. And without going into all those details, I mean, you can always inbox me or give, and we can communicate later. But without going into all those details, suffice it to say, we figured that part out. so that our customer base continued to grow. And we found that if we bought more supplies in bulk, our costs started to go down. And so with that in mind, you just got to keep in mind, business is warfare. You have to have a demand in order for you to even think about the supply. If there's no demand for what you're producing, it's an exercise in futility. So we had to build the demand for people for our product. We had to inform them and educate them, and then we had to get the product into their hands. And so, it was a learning process, and we wasted a lot of money getting to it, but at some point we did successfully, I think, navigate that space between supply and demand, and also our materials and keeping our costs down.
Excellent points, my brother. Get a couple of comments here. Podesta Moon says sometimes it's the innocence that keeps out the fear. That's right. We jumped in it with all feet, and we just continue to make it happen. Sis Jeanette, thank you for coming in. She says, Sis Jeanette and Willie Muhammad, thank you, Brother Victor, for the shout out. Somebody listening to you. Yes. Christine Crowder says support is the key to it all. Way to learn, YouTube farmers. Yes. About to get it again. Texas just found Echo Blue Farms. That's Podesta Moon, y'all. Please check her Facebook page out. Nicole Erica, thank you for coming on. You said I planted some beans, tomatoes, carrots, and squash. That's what we're talking about. Let us know what kind of benefits you got. Belinda Muhammad, thank you for coming in. Nicole Erica says heirloom seeds, buy vegetables from farmers market, non-GMO, so you can grow it from seeds. That's right. Very important. You all make sure that when you are buying your food, that it has seeds in it. But the other way, as I have said previously, the way that you know that your food is heirloom is if you eat it and then you put it in your soil or you put it in your compost and it grows. That's proving to you that it's heirloom and that it can be reproduced. And so it's very important to know these things, because as we continue to move in the direction of independence, we have to know what it is that we have. We can't just speculate. Like, you listening to Brother Victor talk, we were on YouTube. Yeah, we were on, listen to other people. We did have people come, but we went to work and figured out a lot of things based on just straight listening, going and trying to prove it. And then as we were trying to prove it, we were figuring out other ways and other things and, mixing this and that and finding out what the best way, called experimentation, right? And so while we are not in a famine right now, we have to start making sure that we're practicing enough to know what it is that we do, what we need to do when we get to that land. So while I look through some of these comments, Brother Danny, can you talk a little bit about the same reality just from the farm in general on what are some of the challenges and the balances of, the different things that are going on, and, just as simple as cutting grass. And like you say, water, if we don't get enough rain, wetting things and getting hoses that are long enough, and, fences being knocked down and other animals getting into your property, and, animals that are looking for food too, coming and running in your food stores and eating up all your stuff. And we had no plan for that to happen. Cows getting out and we got to go run them down. Talk a little bit about all that, my brother.
Yes, Brother Victor was mentioning. I heard something. I think it was Brother Victor mentioning about, everybody might not be in a position to, get, because it's expensive. It can be expensive, and there may be a tendency to think that because you have land or there is some land, which is really not much compared to some people I know that have thousands of acres. It costs just one side of one, just maybe 3/4 of one side to fence in was about $2,000 just recently, and the considerations of, the things you must consider, is if you're going to, because I spoke with a brother the other day, and he said he just purchased 10 acres. And I say, it's going to be some work now, because, you have to, for that, you most definitely, these are things that you may consider. You have to consider, is there water out there? How are you going to get water out there if there's not city water? Because some rural areas do have city water. Is there water out there? you're most definitely going to need a tractor with a front end loader, the bucket that lifts things or what have you, because it can get very challenging at times, and in terms of trying to be natural, you want to be natural, but it's man against nature, because you got weeds all over the place. And you're like, man, I'm tired of fighting these weeds. Let me just get some of this stuff and just spray on it, But if you want to keep it, if you want to keep it tight, because I'm serious, I had some serious considerations, and I walked out there one day. Me and Dr. Keeley walked out one day, and we said, "Oh man, look at these wild berries out here! Wild berries all over the place." I said, "Oh no, we can't kill this," So it's man against nature, and there's several things that as I was saying, there's several things to consider. So, and there's nothing wrong with. I think the advantage that we had is that we were willing to sacrifice ourselves to make somebody else free, and we saw how effective it was. At a point, how you just let somebody go, you support that person until they get free. Kind of like what I've been told about some of the Asians, what they would do. They'll get everybody a pile in, and they'll break one loose and let them get free, and then we pull somebody else and pull them free. So right. It really works, So, and it's a very difficult thing, when you're trying to do it by yourself. So that's the importance of working with other people, because you can get a hand on. And I remember we come in, it was very cold one night. We had to come out and get a cow out the ditch, and I mean, we didn't know nothing about getting no cow out the ditch.
Right.
So we finally figured out we got something slid it underneath the cow, lift them up just enough and drug it out. And then the cow wouldn't get up because we didn't understand why it didn't get up. It was tired from fighting. Then we tell somebody, we get some information from somebody, man, put some honey on his tongue, and we put the cow walked over. It came on home. It's just these things of just learning about, just and whoever, if you desires to get out there, and it's the best thing to do, because you just do it, and you'll start learning as you go. I'm from around this area. But I was a city boy, so to speak. It was city country. Right. I'm from Beaumont, Texas. The great Beaumont, Texas. So it's kind of city country. I want to be a slick. I want to be an athlete, all this other kind of stuff. And just the other day, I'm out struggling trying to weed it, and my daughter come riding around saying, "Hey, the cow's out." Oh, they all up in the garden. I'm running, and my back hurting, my hip hurting. I'm trying to get the cow back in there. But the good thing about it is that, whenever you do, if you're into husbandry, because that's pretty much what I've been doing. If you're into husbandry, whenever you do decide, you train your cows, so fortunately, the cows are trained up enough. And when I make a move on them, they know what time it is and they come in. It's easy to get them back in, But however, there's a caveat there that I chose not to have a bull, because the bull kept getting over, and you keep getting these phone calls from your neighbor, and you have to go over and try to get the bull over. I don't ride horses, so I have to call my cousin Weasel, and he'll come over and rope it and bring it on back, and then we got to figure out where he got out. And then after that, I got sick of him. I say, man, you got to go. I loaded him up on the trailer and brought him to the sale and got rid of it. And I had to think about it. Well, how am I gonna keep on getting calves? And good thing, my neighbor bull, he didn't have no. The neighbor bull kept getting over and kept giving me babies. So it's all good. I ain't got to worry about no bull no more. For right now. But but even that bull got trained. It's just a matter of if you decide that you're gonna get into husbandry. And husbandry, you have to have some land. And that's. You have to make sure that whenever you do get something new on the property, how you train it, you pin it up for a certain time, and you feed it, and you kind of deal with you don't trust no bull, but you get attention, so that they'll come to you. That's how you train them. You have to give them the attention that they need. So those are some of the challenges that you could be faced with. I remember we first came out, Mr. Booze came out and helped us do some stuff, and in the land, as I was saying about, you know, the actual land is, it's almost for the brothers that are out there, and I'm pretty sure the women, the sisters can relate to it as well. The land is like a woman. If you don't give that land the time and the energy and maintenance and manicuring, you know, you got to have it under control. So you have to put the time into it, and you have to have a plan. You just can't wake up and just not have a plan, because you'll get burned out. And that's just the way. That's just man against nature, you know. Right.
Yes,
if
sir.
You know, if you ignore it or neglect it, she gonna on your backside for sure.
Yes, sir. Excellent points. You know, one of the things that we have to discuss is, as a people, why we have shied away from the farm, and it was because of the destructive perspective of the black codes after so-called freeing of the slaves. Right. My grandfather was a sharecropper, so we know, we've read some of the stories, but some of us have heard them firsthand from some of our family members. My grandfather used to talk about how he would go out into the sugarcane fields in New Orleans and work, you know, sun up to sundown, and make a nickel or 10 cents for a week. We also have read, and, you know, if you get secret relationship between blacks and Jews, which is a book that tells a lot of truth, and they've taken it off Amazon and these other places because they don't want this truth out. But there were times when black people would, you know, grow crops, and of course they had to borrow money for the seeds, they had to borrow money for the animals, they had to borrow money for all the things. And at the end of the year, these people that they were borrowing from, the people that they were trying to get themselves started with, would always make sure that they never made a profit. And so as people, we have run away from farming because of the difficulty factor that was put on us. They took us away from the farm. And so when we're talking about this, this difficulty factor to farming, we don't want to turn anybody away, because with every difficulty factor, there's always this great benefit that comes from that. The food that you get, the amount of food that you get, the benefit of this food that we are growing, that we made sure we did right. We didn't put the pesticides, the herbicides, the chemical fertilizer. We didn't misuse these animals. And so that nutrition will rid you of diseases. It will rid you of false mentality and all these mental health issues. You know, you're going to have some anxiety. You're going to have some down times. That's mental health as well. But I'm talking about these things that we're dealing with our children, and a lot of these things where these people are really erratic. When you have good nutrition, a lot of these things are solved. So that's the beneficial side to the hard work and the difficulty factor. It always is going to balance itself out. And any of you that have ever grown anything, you know that if you just grow a few things in your backyard, you're going to have more food than you and your family can eat. Yeah, and so we got quite a few great points and questions in here. I'd like for us to maybe just deal with some of these. Maxine Bland says, should we heat raw milk? And if so, how long? I'm currently in the middle of doing research about that. So I'm going to save that answer until I figure it out. Anybody want to tap in on that one?
Man, I'm going to defer to the great doctor's research. I know, first and foremost, if you heat it, it's no longer raw milk. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, heating is basically pasteurization. Now, they have different levels of pasteurization, but it basically is pasteurization. Once you raise the temperature of the milk above the temperature of the cow, once that cow was milked, that milk is no longer raw milk. So again, like I said, chilling it immediately after milking freezes the growth of bacteria, but it doesn't kill the healthy bacteria that's in the milk. So Other than that, I'll wait on our good brother, Dr. Keeley, to complete his research before I step out there any further on that.
Yeah, but you make good points, because what we want to do is make sure that anything that we are going to take in as food is at its optimal place for us. That's the reason. And so, we go in the Quran and it says drink milk. Of course, that wonderful book back there talks about drinking whole milk. And so we just want to, I want to make sure that when I come out and I speak about milk, I have all of my information, because there are a lot of different things out here on what you can do as far as heating the milk and what you will kill and what you won't kill, and what degree, like you were saying, ultra pasteurization, blast pasteurization, all these different type of things. So you all just give me a little time, and I will give these answers. Kevin, actually, Brother William Muhammad made a good point. He said that let's not forget about goats and sheep as well, because even though, you may not be a meat eater, goats and sheep do a good job of, eating certain things on your land that sometimes cows will not eat. But also that if you have sheep and goats, you can actually lease them or rent them to other people. They will pay you to have these animals on their land so they can eat up their herbage. So what, you guys got anything you want to add to that?
I have zero experience with goats and sheep. All I know is I like me a good lamb chop every now and again, but I'll defer to Brother Daniel on that one. Go ahead, Brother Daniel, take that
one. But the question that was about the milk being boiled, and I'll say something on what you just asked. We had been in this for a while, and it's a matter of the cleanliness of the person that's getting the milk, harvesting the milk, getting the milk, or what have you. And the key to it is to check the place out where you're getting it from. How open they are to letting you see their process, how they're getting the milk. And if you do that, I think you'll be okay. It's not like and the thing about it, if you have a relationship, you develop a relationship with the people that you're getting your products from. In fact, there's a white lady and a white man that they studied dairy science at Texas A&M, and they have a property right now. My brother-in-law Patrick, right now, until he's been getting it for a couple of years now. Until he's established a relationship with. I know him as well, because I used to get advice from them, and they are very helpful. And their place, you go there, man, it's clean. It's clean. They don't boil anything or none of this other kind of stuff. They're clean, very clean. And if you do that, you'll be okay. So if you can go to wherever you're getting your milk from, and it's a good experience to go to the place instead of, because it means something more when you actually go to the place and get your product. On the goat side, in fact, I went and looked at some. In fact, we all, the three of us and a couple of other brothers, Brother David and some other brothers, we went out to a slaughterhouse, so to speak, or what have you, where a Muslim brother from Bangladesh, and he had sheep and stuff like that. But I was already thinking about getting into that, as we talked about how the things get wild, the weeds get wild and everything, and then you can do that. But I have another thought in mind. I got to make sure they don't get out so they won't get in my garden, So, and there's a lot of people from other countries that may eat goat, and it's a delicacy for them, and that could be something that's profitable, So I've kind of been looking into it, and it doesn't require as much maintenance. So anybody that if you do have And just a thought, if you have family, sometimes you can ask around in your family that some of your family members may start getting a little older and they can't handle it, and they may allow you to put stock on their property, and you can get started like that, because They may be happy to just have you put it out there. You can get in the stock game just like that. Get you a couple of cows. And, you can get you something. And like I said, if you really want to have them under control, as I was saying, you put your hands on them early on, and then you'll have them under control, and they'll probably appreciate them letting them be out there if it's fenced in. getting out there and eating up some of the grass, so they ain't gotta get on no tractor and cut the grass.
That's right.
So, so don't. My whole thing is that I think somebody was saying don't. There's no discouragement. Because everybody right now, Minister Farrakhan has spoke about in part 36 of the time it must be done, about how at one time the government had during one of the wars that that everybody had a victory garden. Right. So everybody should be trying to grow something, something right now, regardless of what the situation is. You can go to Home Depot, get some buckets and this and that or whatever, and nobody is better than the other, and we just learning.
That's right. Kevin Woods asked a pretty interesting question. He says, brothers, how much land do we need regional to produce for our people? I know I personally can't answer that. Anybody want to take a shot at that one?
Well, that's a mathematical question, man, on par with the supreme wisdom right there, brother. Man, I think really, man, I think the more appropriate question, and it's not belittling brother's question. I read that earlier and I've been thinking about it. It's not belittling the question, but I think the more appropriate question at this stage of the conversation is, how much land do we need to feed our family, our block, our neighborhood before we move and scale up to a regional? Because when you talk about feeding a region, number one, how would you divide that region? Every region is not capable of producing all the food that it needs as far as the varieties or the types of food. For example, we talk about that wonderful, powerful navy bean. Well, we know that navy bean is not necessarily going to grow in every climate at the same rate and have the same benefit in every climate. If it's conducive for us here in Texas to be the ones that are producing the tomatoes for the nation, then we need to work out more of a system that we're bartering with the brothers in Michigan or the brothers in Georgia or brothers wherever that are producing the navy bean. If in California they're going to grow the oranges and the grapefruits, then they need to figure out, well, how can they get these tomatoes from us, etc. So I think more appropriate question would be, try to calculate how much land do I need first to feed my family of 8. After I feed my family of 8, how much land do I need to try to feed maybe the next 2 houses or 3 houses down? And how can we knock down these fences between our yards and cultivate all of this land that we share, rather than just putting a whole bunch of flowers back there, even though the flowers are necessary for pollination? How can we cultivate in between these rows of houses and say, well, look, I'm going to grow cucumbers this week or this season. Why don't you go ahead and do some string beans and we'll trade? You know what I mean? Let's start on that scale and move forward, because that's a mathematical question that, man, hey, bro, I'm not ready to tackle that one right now, man. I'm still on problem number 1.
But I think you raise very good points, and that
Dr.
The word realistic is in the subject matter, because we have to be realistic. And again, I'm not trying to belittle my brother's question either, because it is a very good question. But for us to go from people that are not doing anything for ourselves to thinking that we're going to feed 40 to 50 million people and others is, I think, a huge task. And so we do have to start small. Some people are asking about growing in fish tanks. We have to grow in whatever we have the capability of. I know there's a guy that I follow called Ron Finley. He's out in California. They call him the garden gangster. But he was showing people how to take old drawers from, dressers that are breaking down and how to grow in there, because the water can run out and not bog your food down. So, we, again, as you said earlier, man, everybody should be trying to grow something. My personal experience is that tomatoes are easy to grow. Bell peppers are easy to grow. Okra, eggplant, those things are easy to grow. There are some things that are a little more difficult. A lot of times your watermelon, your cantaloupe, cucumbers, things like that are pretty easy to grow. There are some things that take a little more effort, and then fruit trees take a little more effort. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know which ones need a lot of water. You have to know which ones that you have to wait till they're a little more sturdy before you can plant versus the ones that can handle the climate where you are. So a lot of these things we just have to get to a point where we're doing it more in a small scale. And then as we all get better and we start getting more unity, we'll be able to, move it up to another degree. What you think, Brother Danny?
Well, the brother who asked the question, the best part of the question is that he's willing to include other people. He's not being selfish. He's trying to figure out for more. And if you listen to Saving Day 2013, Minister Farrakhan breaks it down about how much food Minister Farrakhan, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, told him to think for the whole. And he broke it down. So the brother that asked the question, maybe you could do the mathematical calculation on your own if you just listen to that lecture where he kind of broke it down, what it would take, so many loaves of bread and how much daily bread that is being needed, that's needed and whatnot. And he breaks it down. And so, and I just recognized that the sister Podesta Moon, that's Brother Roberts. I think that's Brother Roberts' wife.
Yes, sir.
And she's very sharp with the gardening, and my wife talks about it all the time or whatever. I just figured that out. I mean, I just had to mention that. It's just a matter of, and I by no way am I claiming to be any type of expert. I've been thrust into the game of agriculture, and I'm learning as I go, and it gets more rewarding. And I'm actually starting to see how you have to pay attention, and it gives you patience to look and see what's in your crops, what's going on with your plants and this and that. And I don't know much about it. My wife is the planter. I'm just a laborer where I'm digging up and doing this and that or whatever. She's just putting it down and saying, this is when you put it down. This is when you cut it. This is when you do that. She's doing that. Her and Brother Nadia, who's been helping me. And so, those, just learning those different things is open up doors for me in terms of my mind expansion, and some days you got to, I'm starting to try to learn now. I'm learning now that you can't be straddling the fence if you're going to be in the game all the way. There's nothing wrong with just doing gardening on a small scale or this and that or whatever. But when you have to keep up with all this, you can't straddle that fence. You're going to have to be in. And I'm learning, I've got my backside kicked, because, I heard Minister Farrakhan speak about the law of youth. And if you don't use it, it'll be taken. And the brother that asked the question about how much needs to be, it's a lot of us, we still trying to, maintain families and things like that. The harvest is ripe, but the workers are few. It takes a lot of work. But it's a doable though. Right. And once you get into it and you get involved in it, you start kind of flow with it. That's like anybody else that's involved in any other type of business or what have you. You start to flow with it. You start coming across other people that are involved in the industry, and whether you're even in the rap industry or whatever industry you may be in, you find yourself conversating with other people and doing those things like that. But a good way to learn initially, if you don't have a whole area that you're planting or gardening or whatever, a small garden is going to help you and get you ready for the big game. Yes.
Yeah, I see a lot of wonderful comments. You all, there's quite a few of them. I know, we all have our own comfort level, but it seems like a lot of people are out here doing it. And so that's the idea. That was the whole idea of the show, is to, spread this type of reality that we could reach out to people in our vicinity. Sometimes there are people that maybe, our own family members that have land, and we could be using that land to do the things that we need to do. And we also know that the minister talked about in that in the lecture, one of those lectures he did on the farm, about how many different products come from the cow and how many different things we could do, and how the farm would be the engine of our society, because there's so many different potential job sources that come out of that. Or we could say entrepreneur possibilities. Somebody's going to have to take, when the cow dies, who's going to take the skin and make some leather shoes or leather purses? Who's going to take the bones and maybe make something that could be used for, some of the animal, and some of the parts of it can be put back in the ground, and that could be, renourishing some of the nutrients in the ground. So there are so many different things that could happen at the end of the day. Even when you're talking about the death of an animal, somebody's got to come out and take care of that, because with all the things that you have going on the farm, you can't necessarily always and don't have the time to be able to take care of everything that's going on. There's so many different aspects. For a while we had 3 to 4 beehives on our farm. So we were, producing the honey. All of these things take time. All of these things take effort. All of these things take expertise. So it's a lot. And, so we're going to, get to a point where we're starting to close down the show. First of all, I thank everybody that's come on. Please share the show. I think the comments and the interaction is wonderful. I see a sister, I forgot her name. She was talking about in California. We were just talking about the struggles. She said they got coyotes out there that attack the chickens, and somebody was talking about the Amish and, the milk there. They don't heat their milk. I also heard somebody talk about, I think it was the same sister was talking about the coyotes, was talking about the Mormons that take their animals and put them on other people's land. And that's how they, help people with the same process that we're talking about. So, I think we're getting to it. This is the type of, I think, conversation, type of information that will give us more confidence that as we continue to build our unity, we're going to be okay as the time gets hard. And that's where we're going to make ourselves out of this into our own hereafter, when we're doing these things and we're very efficient at it ourselves, and we can eliminate poverty, eliminate disease, eliminate anger, eliminate jealousy and envy, because the more we do this together, the more everybody sees their own place in our economy of growing our own reality. Brothers, you got any final statements or any final subjects you want to deal with?
Yeah, I think I want to tackle that chicken thing the sister was talking about, man. We got to talk about the yard bird, man. Everybody like the yard bird. I think, one of the things that I've learned in this journey to food self-sufficiency was that even though I grew up in the city, I developed an appreciation since I've been here in the South. I've developed an appreciation for the chicken. I like that chicken, man. I've studied that chicken. I've raised that chicken. I've raised them both for eggs and for meat. And it's an interesting thing. And I've done that in the city. I'm not talking about, on the land. We had chickens on the land at one point, and that was a lesson in and of itself, because the chicken hawks and the possums, boy, they were very grateful that we bought some chickens down there for them, because they was tearing us out the frame down there for a minute, man. We had a possum that was living in the chicken coop. We didn't even know he was living in there, just having chicken every day. But no, I'm talking about just in my yard. I've had chickens in my yard on multiple different occasions for eggs. And I also raised some from chicks and took them to the slaughter myself, from day old chicks into slaughter, and where I controlled their feed. And brother's putting on screen right now my latest chicken tractor that I kind of took a bunch of different designs and plans that I saw off of different YouTube videos and Google searches. And then that what you're looking at is like almost entirely, like I'll say 90% reclaimed wood. When people start setting their wood out for heavy trash day, whether it's plywood or particle board or 2x4s or what have you, I rode by in my van and I just started picking pieces up, and I stacked them in my garage until I figured out what I wanted to do. And I started building it myself, and my grandson got out there together, and we built that thing there. I haven't put any chickens in it yet, but I plan on it real soon. I built it for 2, at the most 3 layers. I'm going to put egg layers, brown egg layers, because I tell you, one of the biggest lessons I've learned in working with these brothers is that I didn't know what real food was until I started working with these brothers. Because what you get out the grocery store, growing up where I grew up at in Michigan, eggs, man, until you had an egg produced from a chicken that you own and that you controlling what that chicken eats, until you had one of those eggs, and you've never had an egg in your life. Until you bake something with one of those eggs, you've never baked anything in your life. And then the same thing with raising chickens for meat. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that we should never, ever eat ground meat from a grocery store.
That's right.
Because we don't know how they ground it, whether they mixed anything in with it or what. But I raised 30 chickens from day old chicks. I fed them religiously with some meticulously researched chicken feed, non-GMO, no pesticides, no antibiotics, anything. And then I took them to the slaughterhouse. I watched each one be slaughtered. I watched each one be gutted. I watched each one, all the feathers and all that type of stuff defeathered. And then I watched each one be butchered, including having some ground up for some fresh ground chicken. And if you've never had a ground chicken burger from a freshly ground chicken that you let me tell you, boy, hey,
Lamb chicken eating Vic.
Man, that's an experience right there, man. Let me tell you. But no, seriously, a lot of us don't realize that in different cities that we live in, we are allowed in many cities across the United States to keep chickens in our yard. Roosters are pretty much banned everywhere because of how much noise they make. But chickens have been approved by city councils all over the country. All you have to do is a quick Google search to find out, for the most part, if your city has an ordinance allowing you to keep chickens. And if they do, and then it's just a matter of building some type of coop. And you don't have to do anything fancy. You can Google search images. You can YouTube and get step-by-step results on how to build a little small chicken coop. And you can pretty much raise a chicken or two. And chickens are social animals. So you really want to have a minimum of 2. 3 would be ideal, but 2 definitely. You have to think about pest control, of course, because they do draw flies, but that's manageable. And they will draw rodents if you don't have a proper way to feed and water them, and keeping the feed and water away from the rodents. But man, they're super easy to maintain and care for, and there is nothing like fresh eggs every morning. And if depending on the breed that you get, there are some breeds that literally will produce eggs every day. Rhode Island Red, I know, is one of the most prolific breeds out there. They will give you an egg a day until, from the time they're like maybe 7.5, 8 weeks old until, a good 2 years, you'll get an egg a day out of them. At that point, they start to taper off a little bit, but man, it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. If you get a dual purpose bird, once that bird stops laying, guess what? You can fry him up, or baking, barbecuing, whatever you want to do. But no, seriously though, it's another part of food self-sufficiency that I think we need to think about seriously, and wherever we are. You know what I mean? I can't stress it enough because I'm not a big fan of having pets per se, because I think it's just throwing money away. But if you're going to have a pet, why not have a pet that's going to give you something back? That's just my take on it. Some people like pets. Some people like to just spend their money on, and they feel comfortable doing that. I'm not comfortable doing that. So it's another way to, and then also their waste is also fertilizer.
Right.
You can't put it directly on your garden because it's hot, meaning it will burn your produce, literally. It'll burn seeds. It'll burn plants. You have to compost their waste, but it doesn't take that long to compost it, because if you're doing it on a regular basis, and if you're also laying their coop and their run and all that with hay, then it already starts the composting process before you add it to your compost pile. So just some points to consider. I mean, I think it's probably the best thing I've ever done. And I'm looking forward here to doing it again real soon.
Oh, chicken, lamb eating Vic. Go ahead, Brother Danny. Hey,
yes,
by the way, Vic, Cheryl West says you ought to charge.
It's almost a must.
Yeah, I saw that.
Go ahead, Brother Danny. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. It's just a matter of just, it's almost we at that point now where we have to do it, um, and I even in conversating with you find a different conversation when you out with other people. You may be in a store somewhere and you have a conversation with them and you talking about you know gardening and husbandry and things like that. It's when we do, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad tells us to do for self, and the people, and when you do for self, people will respect you, and if we, if you would notice, I mean, and I don't want to jump on this subject so much so, but we've been getting slaughtered out there in the streets. Our people has been getting slaughtered, um, killed, and all these other types of things. And why is it just us? And when you don't see it going on in the Asian community, because they're doing something and it forces the people to respect them. And when even if you're just doing just a little bit, and you're in the conversation or you talking about it, and people will respect you. Because they know that you're coming from a different perspective and you're dealing with nature, they will automatically respect you. So the more that we do, and I see that, there's been quite a few people on, and the more that we keep doing and keep building these groups up of people that are doing this for themselves, the more, the more respect that we'll garner among other people, because it's that point now. We're at that point. We can't. It's not a hobby for us to do this anymore. It's a necessity now. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I agree 100%. I want to give a shout out to Salima Shabazz. She's given a lot of good information. Drew Janine, she's given quite a few suggestions. She said up to 2 chickens here in Phoenix. Camilla X says, has anyone ever heard of tasing squabs? Raising squabs. I know in How to Eat to Live, Don Elijah Muhammad said that's the only bird animal that we should eat, and we should eat them before they fly. That's the end of my knowledge when it comes to squabs. Anybody else got anything about that?
No, sir. I plan on doing a little bit more reading on it. I know that like I said, I have an affinity for the birds, and trying to figure out a little bit more about how I can incorporate more in the small space I have, without compromising the health of the animal or the health of our health as well. But definitely want to do some more reading on it, because the messenger did mention it and how to mention those specifically and how to eat to live. So it's very interesting to me, and I definitely plan on doing more research, and hopefully we can get together in the future and talk about that.
Yes. I'm really impressed. A lot of people have a lot of information and experience, and that's what's the great thing. So I'm hoping that everybody that hears on the show, number one, share the show, please, but also look at some of these comments and follow these people, and let's continue to build this network and build reality, so that if somebody that gets on here in a couple of weeks and they don't know anybody in a particular area, we can start to build this unity, because that's how it starts. Unity. We're not going to have 50 million people, 60, 70, 80 million people all together, other than 1 or 2 relationships and 2 or 3 people meet and keep growing it. So, let's continue to follow each other. I mentioned Podesta Moon, but I see some other people that we need to follow as well. They got some good information. So, and I'm also appreciative, like somebody just shouted out that they learned a lot, and they learned a lot from the comments. That's the great thing about this. This is not just about those of us who come on to speak. Of course, these are relationships that I have and people that I know, but it's also about those of you who continue to come back, you continue to support, you continue to say great things, ask great questions, give good advice, good interaction. That's how we all learn. That's how we all grow. And that's how we're going to be successful. It's things like that. So again, we're about to get off the show. You all, I appreciate everybody for coming on. Again, share the show before you leave. Brothers, any final comments before we close out?
I could just close that, any follow-up or any questions about anything that we've talked about, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram, and I know he had everything scrolling there on Facebook. It's Victor X Seals, and on Instagram it's NOI Plumber at NOI Plumber. Feel free to reach out to me and we can do a follow-up. And I've seen some of the comments as well on people that, be looking for a friend request from me, because I definitely want to pick your brains a little bit about some of what you shared in the comments. And shoot, that's about all. I'm looking at some of the comments. I see some of them are coming from YouTube. I'm gonna have to go in here and follow some of these people too. But this definitely was an informative program for me as well, brother. Thank you, sir. Thank
you, brother. Appreciate your time. Appreciate all the great information. And again, as a lot of you are saying, we can learn a lot from YouTube. We can all be humble enough to know that we got some place that we can go and we learn, and then we come and we share and we grow from that. So let's continue doing this and inspire some young people. Let's all try to inspire 1, 2, or 3 young people to have some interest in this and come on and do their own thing and come out and learn and get interactive, put their hand and their feet in that soil, get that grounding. People always talk about how good they feel. Brother Danny, any closing comments?
Yeah, just take your time and just find your area and work that area. Because if you try to do too much, it'll wear you out. You'll get exhausted. So just find your area, whatever your niche may be. Some people may not want to deal with husbandry, and some people have aspects of this thing because it's so broad. Agriculture, agribusiness, it's just so broad. So just grab your area, because you can't do it all. So just grab your area, roll with it. If you don't agree with somebody on something, how they doing something, it doesn't matter. Just grab your area, roll with it. And if you could be helpful and you can share with someone, share with them. And that's the key to it, is to share. That's the key to it, is share. I don't come from a vantage point of like I know everything. My ears are open for any and everything that is good. So nature, help those. Nature, God helps those who help themselves. So you help yourself, and you're gonna get the help. And right. Sister Podesta Moon, I'm gonna be in contact with you and Brother Robert, because they're out in this area. We out in the same area. So I heard she's very knowledgeable, and I want to I hook up with her. In fact, I talked with Brother Robert the other day, but let him know, hey, I'll be in contact with you all pretty soon.
Yeah, I consider Podesta Moon a dirt god, and I don't mean nothing negative by that. She be doing some stuff in that dirt. One more thing I'd like to share with you all before we get up off the show is something that a brother, I cannot think of his name right now. I don't know why. His brother sent me some information about water and finding our own ability to get our own water. And I know that's another thing that I definitely have in my focus, is to find some springs where we can get water. We can put it in our own glass containers. We know plastic and how it can cause us some problems just within itself, but also some plastic can cause some hormonal issues. It can estrogenize us. And so we have to get to a point where we also unify and start to bottle our own water so that we can know that what we have is pure. And so I just wanted to share this with everybody. Findaspring.com. You can see it right here. It kind of just talks about what regions of the country, and it shows you some of these wells that people are getting their water from, and they're putting it in their own containers. I really don't know a lot about it. He sent it to me not too long ago. I haven't had a chance to do a bunch of research, but so I don't know if there's a cost to it, if there's some type of partnership that you do, like when you do co-ops, but y'all check it out, findaspring.com. And this is something that maybe at some point in the future, we'll have to come on and do a show about this as well, because when we're talking about being free, we're talking about being free, right? So if we're going to be free people, we can't rely on anybody for anything unless we have made associations with them and we know that they are trustworthy. But in the condition that especially Black people are in this country, all people are, I don't think, are in the best condition, but especially Black people being at the bottom of all the statistics and the top of all the worst statistics, we have to be very careful on who we trust as we are moving in a direction of being independent. Of course, we come on and we open up and we talk about the Nation of Islam. We believe and we know that we're going to get some states in this country because of our sojourn in this country, not because we're righteous, not because we're better than anybody else, but because of our affliction that has happened in this country. So we're going to get some land, and we have to grow to a place where we can be efficient and manage that land. So again, thank you everybody who comes in. Thank you for all the regular soldiers. Appreciate you all. There will be no The Ultimate Wellness Group shows without all of you that are doing the wonderful job of coming back, interacting, being a part of it, making it real. So again, we thank you for coming in and getting some news that you can use. Thank you all for spending some of your Tuesday with the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Tuesday. Remember, in a world like we live in, it's very difficult to have good health. So make sure you continue to work hard on your health, taking the information that you get, share it, use it, grow with it, experiment with it. And until next time, we'll see you. Stay safe, stay peaceful, continue to build your confidence so that we make it through this time that we're in and come out on the other side in a wonderful way. And again, you all remember to go check out the Time and What Must Be Done series by Minister Louis Farrakhan. We talked about 36 today, but if you don't know anything about the Nation of Islam, and you want to learn something new, or if you want to just know a little more about what it is that we prescribe to, the minister did a year-long program. He did 1 through 58, gives the basis of the Nation of Islam, the things that we want, the things that we believe in a beautiful way. And also you can continue getting the guidance in a time of trouble on Sundays at noi.org/webcast. noi.org/webcast, where Minister Ishmael is the national representative of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so when he comes on and he gives us guidance in a time of trouble, he's giving us information that's coming directly from the man that I believe is the man that we all need to lend an ear to. I don't know of any other person, politician or religious person or spiritual person, that is given information in the times that we're living in now, and we're watching the reality that information was from a superior place. So if you agree, take a look at those things. The Time and What Must Be Done on YouTube, part 1 all the way to part 58. And of course, noi.org/webcast for a Sunday meeting. And lastly, we have an economic blueprint program that is for us as a people to grow our ability to buy land. And of course, this whole program was about land being the engine by which we function as a people. So please go check out, you can go to noi.org, or you can go to finalcall.com, and there will be a link where you can go to our economic blueprint. 5 cents a day, 35 cents a week. That's something I think that all of us can afford. So check into that and donate if you like. You can do a whole lot more than a nickel a day, but it's as little as a nickel a day. We as a people would have so much money that we would have a lot of our own reality already in check. So you all, appreciate you coming in again. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and stay peaceful.